Outer Orange.
Привет, welcome to another what to buy. Be looking at basically some cards that you may want to consider getting that are either in lists or decks or what people are trying, techs, and that is the obvious stuff as well. And then we'll just kind of be going through them for every nation, and we'll have Messiah at the end since it's kind of its own deck set thing, so we'll be doing that separately. But yeah, let's go get started. 50cards.shop, code orange for all your goods. A good time for all that kind of stuff. So yeah, let's go do it. All right, so before I begin, I do want to note that every single clan got basically what is called a cycler card. Basically, it's a card that can kind of send itself back to deck in some way, shape, or form. You can find it later. Every nation got one, so we'll probably be like talking about them here and there, but it's kind of obvious that if you feel like you need them, then you should probably get them. And they look like this, just to give you an example of the Dragon Empire one. The first skill is the same. The second skill is half the same, but it'll have a different second part of the skill. So basically all of them, say if you discard them during ride phase, you can Soul Blast, put them to bottom deck and draw a card. And then the second effect, they all pretty much say one place on a rearguard circle, if you persona road, you can be counter blast. But then after the comma, the second skill will be different. In this case, you retire your opponent's rearguards the same column as this unit. The other nations will have different kinds. So just wanted to let that be known at the very beginning. They're all really good. They're not like mandatory in every single deck, but they're especially in Dragon Empire. Actually, it's not as mandatory, but some other clan and some other nations it's a little bit more useful. So starting with Gendiva. So basically, you need all the Gendiva stuff from the set because it's brand new. So basically, all the support in here you'll probably need that's Gendiva related. But then also on top of that, some people want Best Harvest as well in their deck to kind of help with draw. This is actually a Eugene card, but it's pretty cheap, so you can actually pick up Best Harvest as well to kind of help with your engine. And if you guys need kind of like a sample deck list, I got you on those because there's actually plenty over on Deckset. So if you feel like you want to look at more text, there's a lot of different types of lists, but for the most part they all kind of do the same thing. Some run the cycler guy, but mainly you just kind of try to you pretty much run that Gendiva engine. Some also run the grade 1 Bob Saga card in here and run the shield card, if I remember correctly, in the like the shield order, just to get a free ride line search basically. So if you want your ride line to be as free as possible, here's a list with that kind of example, just so you're aware that this is just something you could do. So also run the retire guy here, and then also here's the sword, so it is a sword, and then here's the Best Harvest card as well being run. And these are some of the topping lists from WJP stuff. So there's also like the main box set art card, which nobody really talks about, but it's actually the new Varina that came out, which is right here. This is a new Varina, so if you want to play X Overdress, you definitely will probably need some copies of this. I've seen a couple lists, nothing too crazy, but I will say most of this just runs the X Overdress and kind of just calls it a day. Here is a sample list of that basically, but you'll notice most of the stuff here is all the X Overdress stuff, and here's the new card at 3. So if you feel like you don't need it at max, you don't have to have it at max. And also something I know, some people run the old Varinas because this guy right here actually searches for any Varina. So basically you can run Varina Arcs and you can run the Varina Esperadia and stuff like that. I've seen some weird stuff people run. I don't know how optimal it is, but I've just seen there's been a couple lists here and there that have also been running that, so you can experiment with that. Another thing I didn't mention earlier, but on top of the cycle cards, there's also the Dragon Tree support cards. They all kind of do basically the same thing with some minor differences here and there, but just something to note, they're kind of like, if you think Dragon Trees, here's one of them. If you think Dragon Tree is going to get like insane in one of the nations, I hear the Dragon Empire one is actually not terrible, but if you feel like the need to pick those up, you can also grab those. They're basically common, so they should be super cheap for you to grab. So that might be another thing to consider. But other than that, I think that's about it in terms of Dragon Empire. I'm gonna keep Dragon Empire the shortest because it's the one I know like the least about, so I don't want to give like too much information that's like false information. I'm giving you as much as I know about the clan basically. I mean about the nation. Outer Orange here. There is a card I forgot to mention that is Meteor Flare Dragon. And basically this card helps play into the Ava matchup, and some Gendiva players also play this card as well. Keter got kind of an upgrade with the Hexaorb stuff, so you definitely be wanting to focus on the Hexaorbs. Hexaorb support, the Wizard is really good in here. The Cycler card is okay for like other decks, so you can get this for MOB basically. MOB, this card is actually really good, or any other cards they feel like any other decks you need it. Bastion really doesn't change too much in this set. This is a very heavy like Sorceress and Hexaorb support, so basically the cards you want to focus on is cards that let you generically keep looking at top card. So any of those cards are very valid in here. I think for the most part that's like where the focus is. This card is actually really interesting. I just thought I'd throw this out there. This card is when placed through a card's ability, gets 5k, and then if it's called from deck, you can Soul Blast, draw a card, and get a boost. I see a future where this card will have like different applications of usefulness in like other decks, like including Ezo, by the way. So that's just something that came to my mind if you want to think for the future. Other than that, you're really just grabbing all the Sorceress cards that work for Hexaorb, and then you want to run those, and then all the Sorceress cards that work for work for the new sorcerer guy. You can also grab this card right here. This card works in Bastion, but also you can in the future run it in Ezreal if you want as well. It's kind of a weird Hyrule card, but it is something that just came out that can kind of be thrown in there. And then I'll show you guys some lists, of course, because just why not? Bastion really hasn't changed, so we're gonna just kind of skip over Bastion. I'm gonna be real with y'all. Bastion is definitely one of those decks where it's basically the same, but here is a sample of Hexa Orbs. You do still want the old stuff. You are noticing there is cycler cards in here, and then we are running some of the old, this works with Persona and stuff like that. You do still want some of the old Hexa Orb cards that work with Hexa Orbs, so just something to consider. If you're upgrading your deck, you should already have these cards, but in case you're not, you're definitely going to want to look into some of the older sets and see where you need to grab stuff. Here's another list. This one is running, again, like all the Hexa Orb cards, and then they're running a cycler card, and they're running, this card's actually really good. This is from the new stuff, and these cards are really good too. They're basically running all the good cards from Hexa Orb and then adding the engine of the actual Hexa Orb, the new Hexa Orb herself, which is Aquamarine. I'll show you guys one list of the new sorcerer guy in case you need just kind of like a sample of sort of what you may want to look for. You'll notice they're running Dragon Tree cards in here. They're running the Sorcerer's engine. So this is the Dragon Tree card from the previous set. This is a set 9 card, and then there's also Drilling Angels in here as well, and Calibri. So that's just cards to consider to maybe look into. I would highly recommend testing at first before just buying the Calibri, at least, because the Calibri is kind of pricey, but the drilling isn't too bad, so you can kind of consider that. And then for those that might be wondering about Minerva has not really changed. You can run this new dragon guy who's actually in this set right here. This card actually is pretty good. I've actually picked this card up for myself as 4 copies just to have, because it just says on Rear Circle, look at top card, and you put it on top or bottom of your deck, you put it at the bottom, you look at top card again. So there's actually a card like this in Lyrical. So this is another card you may want to grab if you're like a big Keter main and you just want like really good generic staples, generic good cards that are cheap. Brandt Gate, I will give you exactly what you need because Brandt Gate is my baby, one of my babies. Anyway, so if you want to consider Prison, this is basically the only card you want to really look into. Prison works with this card very well. Don't worry, this is the FFR. It's a lot cheaper. It's going to be a lot cheaper. This card's actually good. It just sucks that Prison isn't really doing too hot as a deck right now, and also this increases the grade 3s, but you can actually run this if you want. It's not terrible. It has a guard restrict and it Prisons shield on it. It has like basically a lot of really good stuff on it. This card's actually pretty nice. It just doesn't really fix the engine of the deck. So this is a card to consider. The Cycler is definitely like a 10 out of 10. It's one of the best Cyclers, so you'll definitely want these. They work in basically any deck that works with orders. This includes Orphis. This includes obviously Ava. Even includes, as weird as it sounds, I think this can even include Gravidia. Not that you'd really want to run in Gravidia, but you could. Yeah, you could play 2 extra orders with Gravidia. Gravidia kind of already plays orders, but it's another thing to consider. Another really good card is actually the Solid Stürmer. This card's actually really good in Ava, in my opinion. So this card's actually nice. I highly recommend picking this card up. You won't need it all the time. We did get the announcement for the Assembler card coming to English, but also once the new set comes, I think this card will not, there won't be any room for that kind of card, but it's an overall really good card. In general, this is a generic card, by the way. This can be run on any deck that includes Orphis, so you can just run it if you want. So just something to consider while you're working through. You also obviously can get the new Avagandia stuff. I think that's mainly it. There's a bunch of Dragon Tree support. This Orphis card right here isn't very good. I don't recommend it, but if you're trying to go like super budget, you don't really need it at all. But if you're going super budget, go for it. There's one more card. This card is really good in Orphis. It's actually insane. This is a common, by the way, so it's like the easiest thing to upgrade. So if you already have an Orphis deck, this is easily just like the easiest upgrade of your life. You're spending like basically pennies to upgrade into a really good deck. If you want to see an Orphis sample list, here's sort of what an Orphis list looks like nowadays. Notice you'll still want those orders. You usually want 10 of them. You can run Combine Rusher, but it's not mandatory, and actually you can even get away with 1. So if you're thinking like, oh no, I need to spend a lot of money on Combine Rushers, you actually don't. You can buy 1 and put it in your ride deck, and you'll always guarantee to see it. And you can add other cooler cards, like you can up this card basically in the slots that the Combine Rusher is in here. And yeah, honestly, everything else about this deck hasn't changed at all. You definitely want these. You just need the Cyclers. That's something to consider. Ava hasn't changed too much either, but there is one card that you may want to consider adding to your pool, and that is the Dock. This is the Rebellishment Dock right here. Everything else is basically just this guy and this. Ava is actually really easy to upgrade too. You just need the Cycler, you need the Solitude Strummer, and then you just need a Dock. The Dock is like Sense. Will be Sense probably. This will probably be the most expensive part if you choose to upgrade. One thing I will also add in general is probably not a bad idea to grab crit heals right now. If you're shopping already, you should consider grabbing crit heals in general. They're actually pretty useful into the meta we're going into. You don't need like a full playset, but at least 2 is a good sweet spot to have. So if you're shopping and you're gonna have a big cart, Definitely recommend grabbing at least 2. I know some people are against them still, but we are actually going to a meta where there's a lot of pressure everywhere, including Gandiva, including Ava, including Zorga. So because of that, it's not a terrible idea to consider. And especially if you're playing decks like this, there's going to be mirrors that you may want to think about, that where into the mirrors that 25k shield will come up. So unless you 100% that you're going to be facing only rogue, that's actually not a terrible idea to pick those up. So that's that. And then I don't know if there's any other deck that we really need to care about too much. There's like Velstra, which hasn't changed too much, but Sai will do at the end as its own deck set review. And there's Diana's, but I don't think he's changed too much either. So we're actually going to go ahead and there's Avagandia, but we're actually missing a promo, so it doesn't really affect us. I'm trying to see if there's any other generics or anything here. Maybe quickly look through. I know some people are, so something for future, there's actually a list that's currently running these Sisters of Cleaning cards, and it's working with that new space guy. It's like, there's like a list that just topped with it. So if you happen to want to just throw like a couple cents into some commons, because they're basically commons, they're down here. There's like there's this one, there's this one, and this one. They're all right here. So as you notice, this is pre-sale prices and they're really cheap. They're probably going to be literally cents. They're commons and rares. So if you if you want to try these out in the future, because they're so generic, they just work only with each other, but they gain like all this random power because they're working with each other. And they have an order too, that order that we saw earlier with in the FR foiling. So basically, long story short, you can grab these and then use them in the future. If you're okay with investing now, you're only going to spend a couple cents on them. So if you want to wait on them, you can. They're not like expensive, but it's just something to consider if you don't want to like make another huge big purchase. That is actually another set of cards that isn't like too terrible to consider. So Dark State's got Unica. Basically, you're definitely gonna want Unica. I don't think you need like 4 copies, but you definitely want at least 2. There's also Patrick for the Bruce side of things. This card's actually really good, so you definitely want to pick this up if you want to build towards Diablos Bruce. That card just really works really well into like into Ava and a couple other decks. There's Jejul. Jejul's missing a promo though, so you may want to maybe hold off on it. I'm not too sure. If the prices go down, you could probably pick it up and not worry about too much. They do have a Cycler as well. The Cycler is like not as popular for some reason. I'm not really too sure why. Maybe because of how Darkseid is just weird with a lot of its stuff. But you have to call cards from Soul, which is not too bad, honestly. Throw you guys a Jejul, like a couple Jejul decks. I don't think they're that different. You mainly want to focus on the mask, which is something you will need to pick up for both Unica and for Jejul. And then instead of this promo, you could probably find, I don't know what else you could fit in this slot, to be honest, but I'm sure there's stuff that could fit this slot pretty well. And then it is a little bit of a pricey deck because you do need the Restander. You do need the mask, and you do need the Cunning Ram and the Swirler. There's a lot of stuff you kind of need in here to kind of keep it going. There's also Falcate if it's not too pricey. Falcate's another good replacement in case you don't want to do it that way. There's Greedon support, but I don't think the Greedon deck isn't in here. There's no Greedon mask in here yet, but in case you want to like early setup, you can grab some of the Greedon cards and kind of just get ready for a Greedon mask. And just do it that way. There is some Jejul support in here, so in case you really want to play it and you don't want to, obviously the promo isn't out, you could probably play cards like this as well. They're really cheap, so at least it's the cheapest part of the deck you'll see. Let me see if I missed anything. There's Chronojet, but Chronojet doesn't get affected by the set at all. And then there's Unica. Let me give you guys a sample Unica list here. So Sweep Command is still pretty popular, so Sweep Command is another card to consider. And you notice they're running 2 of the Unica and then 3 of the older ones. So if you're just purely looking to upgrade the deck, I think you primarily need this card, to be honest, and the Mask and Unica. And then after that, it's up to you where you want to go. If you want to go Sweep Command, if you want to have the Cycler, up to you kind of where you want to go with that. This card's just a really funny card to utilize. You can call Rear Guards and Soul Charge, and you call whatever from Soul, so you can kind of like early set up with this card. But I think that's about it, to be honest. Aside from grabbing your Mask stuff and grabbing the Mask order, I think this is basically where it's at in terms of this. So let's go ahead and go over, I believe we're going to Stochiea now. All right, so here is Stochiea. So if you're trying to build Zorga, you definitely are going to need the mask. Obviously, you're going to need the mask, and you're going to need the order mask as well. So the grade 3 order, you're definitely going to want to pick up. These are, so they actually supposed to be, this is supposed to be named this, but for some reason they're swapped. I realized that while I was like looking at like some cards with my friend, I was like, oh, these are wrong. But anyway, so the Elwith is definitely a card you want to grab, probably 2-3 copies. You don't really need 4, but if you want to go super aggro into the 4, you can grab them. The Cycler I highly recommend grabbing. I know there's a lot of lists that aren't running this card right now. However, it's actually a very good generic card. And if we ever fall into weird metas where the front row is like super important, this card directly denies front row stuff. So this is just a very good card to have. So I highly recommend, especially for the prices right now, to grab these, because I don't know how the Cycler cards are going to be in the future. That's a really good price if you compare it to the other nations. The Cyclers are way more expensive in those nations than this one. It is pre-sale, it might change. Definitely want this. You want this and this. This is like your mandatory too. So the again, this is spelt wrong. His name is actually Klee, or Koe or so. It's Keel. So you want the he's down here. You want this guy. I want the savoring, and you definitely want these. I noticed that more generic support. This card's not too terrible. I can grab one rasp. This is the card right here. It's not a bad card. You don't need to like max copies. You can probably grab one, throw it in your cart, call it a day. Another thing to consider, this is for past sets. You definitely want to grab mushrooms, or if you don't have mushrooms, you should probably get a playset of mushrooms. They're going to probably keep going up because they're so generically good. They're called the borrow mushrooms. They're meant for the wolf guy. I'm going to have them on the screen somewhere. So that's another card to really consider. Also, Leonord support. You mainly just want the Leonord card. And then after that, you basically just want cards that work with Leonord. Or if you want to go super weird, you can go into the prison dragons. You can go for the order route where you're constantly calling out cards that way. There's kind of a few approaches. There's actually one more card that is kind of a little slept on that I don't even know if people know it exists, but it's this card right here. It says during a turn, if this unit's on a rearguard circle with a dragon shoe marker, it gets boosted 5k. I know that sounds kind of weird, but actually that makes it an 18k, and under a marker it makes it a 23k booster. So it's something as a common, something you could throw in and keep for the future. Other than that, nothing else really got support. Like Flagberg and Maelstrom didn't really get touched too much in this set. This is like a very heavy, not that kind of stuff, but this is mainly Leonord. Even Leonord didn't get like too much. I'm just making sure I didn't miss anything. Here is a list running with the mask, so keep in mind you do have to run the mask stuff because you want to find mask. So which is this right here. So you'll notice that this is sort of where people are right. This is the grade 1 from the current set, and then you have the mask, and then this is the bull from the previous set, which is set 9, and then this is the Elwith right here. And some are running, this was the generic, this is another persona rated card. Basically, if your persona rated you Soul Blast, give this and something else 10k. So it just makes beefier numbers. They're running the roaming prison dragons in here. You don't need them because this one's more order focused. They kind of went more the order route. I think they might even be running the they're running the, yeah. Oh no, they're running the token engine. So they're running the token engine for this one. Let me better view. So yeah, this is one approach. You can kind of more go simple and just run all the Leonord cards instead, or Inlet, or whatever else. I think Leonord is very toolboxy actually. So you kind of do whatever you want. But what's nice about the dragons is that since the deck restands the front row, you can have like the double dragons in the front row and then restand both of them and put the crit on them over the power. So that way they'll be swinging for 2 damage. So this card works with Baroa. You basically choose a grade 0 and it gets 5k power. You get soul charge. It is good, but just finding group 4 is a little tough. I think that covers all the nations. Yeah, so that covers all the nations. Lyrical is exactly the same. So let's go over to Messiah. So this is dropping at the exact same time that the set I just showed you is dropping, which is set 10. So just a heads up, if you need cards, if you're trying to look into this set, just keep in mind it's also dropping. It's also here if you want to just grab the deck set. Honestly, this is probably one of the easiest decks to upgrade. There isn't too much that you need. I haven't been testing this too much, but here's a list. It basically runs everything that the deck set has, and then they have this slot right here where they're running other stuff. Their Makani is an option, but you can actually run the prison, the trial deck prison order, the literal order that you play in Seraph Snow to have to imprison stuff, because the effect says Soul Charge 3, which is really early. You could just Soul Charge 3. It's a grade 1. You just have to rest something for it, and you instantly get the ability. So it's something to consider. You don't need it, but it's a cheaper alternative than the Makani. Claw is not in there as well, so maybe in the Claw slot you can run the Makani instead. This looks like it just doesn't do too much. It looks like it goes into Soul. You can put this unit to Soul. So basically this is just a better version of Makani. When your other unit is unlocked, you can put this into Soul. So Makani just directly Soul charges, and also he chooses himself when he wants to go into Soul. You can put him into Soul at any given point, but not during battle phase. So that card can be put during battle phase. Makani is a main phase thing. So kind of up to you where you want to set up your Soul. But long story short, the deck is pretty much in a really good spot in terms of cards you need to upgrade. So you don't need too much. It's actually why I kind of made it its own category. Like I said, the deck's already there. Like it's already there in front of you. It's basically done. You can just spend your 60, get the deck set, and you're good. I think that about covers it. I think my favorite part about this set is that there actually isn't like you don't need a lot to upgrade decks you already have, though the cards that you do need are kind of a little bit pricey right now, but you don't need a lot to upgrade decks. That's basically it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope it helps you in your shopping experiences and all the fun stuff. Leave below if there's a better way you want me to do these. I've been thinking of like a better way to structure these, and if you have like a better way or thought that you may think would to structure these better, please let me know below. If you enjoy these, please like, subscribe, comment, do all that fun stuff. And again, while you're shopping, if you want to shop over at 50 Card Stuff Shop, you can also do that. Use my code OUTERORANGE. You can get the Messiah deck. You get a bunch of stuff there. We see you later, guys. Bye. Enjoy Messiah decks or Zorga. I'll be playing Zorga. Zorga's great. Zorga's a great deck. I'm absolutely in love with the deck right now, and I can't wait to beat people up with crits and all that kind of fun stuff. Don't forget those crit heals. You need the crit heals. And yeah, I'll probably shut up now. Bye bye now. Bye bye. Bye.